Well, I think going from an intern, you're not, guaranteed a role out of it. So I think from the very beginning as an intern, I was always really keen, showed a lot of, I guess, initiative. And at the Swans in particular as well, no job's kind of bigger than anyone is like something where you go by. So I guess, being willing to do the little stuff and with a smile gets you noticed, I guess, for lack of a better word, or just, having a good attitude. And we find being a good person is probably better than being a good worker. Obviously, having both is good. But, if you're a good person to start with, you can be molded into, I guess, whatever. And, luckily enough, an opportunity came up and I grabbed it.
G'day, guys. Coming up on the show today is Steph Maiolo, who is a football operations manager at the Sydney Swans. Over the last 6 years, she's climbed her way up the ladder of the Swans, from starting as an intern to a coordinator and now a manager. And there's lots to look out for today, including how to work in football operations and the skills that you need to do so. If you enjoy this chat with Steph, come along to the SportsGrad meetup in Sydney in the coming days, where she'll be one of our guest speakers. Let's go.
I started volunteering.
It's all about who you know in sport.
Am I going to be calling the last 10 seconds of the grand final?
You can connect with the interviewer. The hand goes up when they've got to make a decision.
Having a network is one of the most important things you can do.
I didn't necessarily follow my passion. I followed my curiosity.
Once you've worked in sport, there's no going back.
And then lo and behold, before I left, I got offered 2.
Hello and welcome to the SportsGrad Podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry, brought to you by Deakin University, home to the world's #1 sports science school. I'm Ryan Walker, and each week we learn how people made it in the sports industry. We tease out their career decisions, work habits, skills, and everything they do that makes them great, all so that you can learn how to get in, get promoted, and get thriving in the sports industry. If you haven't already, follow us on LinkedIn. And if you want to connect with us and hundreds of other people working in sport, become a member of the SportsGrad community, which you can do so tomorrow if you're listening on the day that this is released. Now, speaking of the SportsGrad community, there is lots happening as per usual. And as we usually do on the podcast, a quick shout out to some of our members doing some amazing things. So first goes to V Trung. She's a sports journalist at the Daily Oz. I think if you don't follow the Daily Oz on socials, then you might be living under a rock. But a big shout out to V. She's one of our absolute favourites here at SportsGrad. Another one want to shout out to Jason Churches, one of our Melbourne Coffee Club's finest as part of the community. He's the new AFLW performance analyst intern at the Collingwood Footy Club. So big shout out to you, Jason. And Prasad Kandul. He's a new intern at Swimming Australia, doing some amazing work down there. So shout out to those legends doing some awesome things in the community. Now, what's coming up? Well, we have our community opening tomorrow morning. As I said at the top, if you're listening to this on Monday, we are opening the community as of tomorrow, which means we've got a new member speed networking event on as well. So if you want to become a member, be part of this amazing community that we're building, join tomorrow and you can get involved with speed networking tomorrow night. We've also got Brisbane and Sydney meetups happening this week. So Brisbane on Wednesday, Sydney on Thursday, still plenty of tickets on sale. Last Friday in Melbourne, we had over 200 come to our Melbourne meetups. The vibes are extremely high with our meetups at the moment. In the meantime, if you'd enjoy a quick email from us each Friday on all the latest job openings, networking events, Q&As, you name it, latest podcast episodes, subscribe to our newsletter. You can do so by heading to our website, sportsgrad.com.au/newsletter to subscribe. And there's a link in the show notes as well. In the meantime, grab a pen and enjoy this chat with Steph Maiolo. Are you aiming for a future in sport? Be ready to transform the industry. Study with Deakin and be prepared to redefine what it means to work in sport. Deakin's School of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences is ranked #1 in the world. So if you want to turn your passion for sport into an impactful career, get ready to push the limits of exercise and sports science, sport coaching, sport development, sports management, nutrition sciences, physical education, and more. Apply now to study at Deakin in 2024. Steph, welcome to the SportsGrad Podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, Steph, I didn't know this until just before jumping on, but are you the person on the Sydney Swans bench that holds up those weird logos every now and again?
Yes, the official name is the interchange steward, but yes, that is me. I do get to hold up the funky signs.
Nice. Is there anything funky that the Swans have used that sort of gave you a little bit of, amusement?
We did trial a couple of things last year. We had a race car and a remote control, gamer control thing. We sort of moved on a little bit, probably not as funky, but a bit more straight down the line this year. Yeah.
Nice. It's always a vocal point of the AFL season who's whipping out what and what interchange steward has what on their sign. So it's good to see the Swans are trying some different things. Now, as we usually do on our podcast, we do some quick fire questions to allow our audience to get to know you a little bit better. So I will kickstart those questions. What was your first ever job?
My first ever job was probably coaching. I grew up with sports, so coaching, touch football and refereeing and whatnot before kind of heading into a bit of retail and bar work throughout uni.
Love that. And you've gone from touch rugby over to the other football, Battle of the Footies in New South Wales.
Yeah.
Yes, but I actually didn't grow up at all with AFL. It wasn't my sport, so I've learned a lot along the way.
Love that. And what did you study at uni?
I studied sport and exercise management at UTS.
Nice. Favourite sporting moment?
Favourite sporting moment was probably last year at the Women's FIFA World Cup, the semi-final, when Sam Kerr scored that goal. We were sitting just behind the goals where she kicked it, and it was the most insane feeling. Like, I get goosebumps talking about it now. That was probably up there with one of the coolest things I've seen.
I love that. And I can't help but bring up, I did see you sent in some photos before this. You were with Sam Kerr. Explain that.
Yeah, I had to include that one. That was cool. That was actually the week leading up to that game. They were in Sydney for that game, obviously. And I think there was a little connection through Dean Cox and Sam Kerr, obviously her being a Perth girl. And so, yeah, the whole team came in and checked out our facilities. And it was hilarious to see 44 grown men fangirling over the Matildas squad. It was really cool. And the staff, obviously.
Oh.
That's iconic.
I've got a video of that goal. I was in the stadium and I regularly just go back and just watch it just to like soak in the crowd. That was one of the great moments in history. It was such a
joy. Like everybody was just going crazy. It was so cool.
Yeah.
What is your favourite interview question to either ask of candidates or be asked as a candidate?
I personally haven't ever interviewed anybody, so probably what I like to ask or what I like to find out is a bit about the workplace culture, kind of what that workplace values, and that's usually a good indication of whether it's going to be a suitable place for you, what their values are and if they align with yours and what their culture looks like.
Nice. Not sure if you're a book or a podcast fan, but is there any that you'd recommend that's helped you at work?
I'm actually, funny that I'm doing a podcast now, but I'm not huge on kind of self-help business podcasts. I'm more of a fiction reader and listener, so I don't have a good answer for this one, sorry.
I'm the exact same. I work with, obviously, my two bosses, Ruben and Ryan, are big on the non-fiction stuff, and they'll say, oh, tune into this, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm a big fiction listener.
Yeah, I love shaming all the pop culture and all that. I love those, but yeah, it's nice to switch off.
I thought about dipping my toe into Harry Potter again on the reading front because I'm a non-fiction only self-help enthusiast. So
yeah, definitely. I love a good fiction. I like a novel, a good story.
Totally agree. Next, what is one platform you use at work that you couldn't live without?
We use a app called Teamworks, and I'll give them a cheeky plug here. They're one of our kind of partners that we work with. It's an app essentially that we use for all our calendar scheduling, messaging players, gathering information, putting out forms and stuff so they know what's going on. I use that especially in my role every single day. And it's so convenient because we went from having kind of a non-user-friendly platform that you could only log into on a computer to having an app, which, as we all know, in this day and age, getting people to look at their phone every day is an easy thing. So, yeah, I use Teamworks a lot.
Nice. That's a new one. Haven't heard that one.
Yeah. Shout out to the Teamworks crew. They'd be listening, no doubt. And finally, if you had 30 minutes to pick anyone's brain, who would it be?
I was saying it's everybody's going to be like, oh, standard. But Taylor Swift, very much a Swiftie. But whether you love her or you hate her, I think that would be a really interesting chat just to see, how she goes about it. And just from a powerful woman and businesswoman point of view, I think that would be a really fun conversation.
You're actually on the call with a huge Swiftie and it's not me.
Oh, amazing.
I do love her, but
I'm not even scared to admit it. I love how you put there, like, just want to understand how she goes about it. Like, I'm genuinely keen now to hear how Taylor goes about her day and how she goes about it. But I'm actually surprised no one, I mean, Cash, you'd probably know this as well. I don't think anyone's ever said Swiftie on here. We ask a lot of people who they love to pick their brain, and Swiftie's never come up. So
she is iconic.
It's a first.
As a sport, if you wanted a sporting answer, I would also really like to sit down with Pep Guardiola. I've been getting on the City bandwagon a lot, and we just watched their documentary. So chatting to him, he's so passionate. So I think that would also be a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, they're two of the best I think we could possibly think of. So very good. I'm liking this. Well, Steph, let's get into the important stuff. Keen to understand, what does your role as a football operations manager require day to day?
Yeah, good question. Day to day. So basically for me, every day kind of looks a little different. I guess essentially my role is to make sure that the football department is running as it should. So anything from like booking fields for training. I do a lot with moving the team around. So when we travel, talking to all our suppliers, our flights, hotels, buses, captain's runs venue. So I guess, in a nutshell, it's organising our department so that it runs properly, making sure people know where they're going, when they're going there.
Wow.
No, cool job.
Big role.
We can unpack this.
Yeah, we'll get more into that after. Before we do, though, walk us through the series of jobs and experiences that you had before you're in the role that you're in now. I know that you went from an intern, I believe, into a coordinator. Chat us through that whole trajectory throughout the Swans.
Yeah, so the Swans I was very fortunate to start my career here and still continuing here. In my last year of uni, I applied for an internship in their corporate match day and events team and landed it. So I worked for a year doing that before kind of transitioning into a full-time with that team, which was awesome. We got to run lots of events and everything on the corporate match day side. So all the boxes and suites, Chairman's Club was kind of under our remit, and everything that a fan comes to see at the game was the responsibility of our team that we put on the show, essentially. And then when COVID kind of hit, I got asked to take on the role. I think someone had just left the role that I'm currently in, and I got asked to take the role to kind of fill her shoes. COVID hit, got stood down, and then came back. Sorry, this is a long story.
No, we love it.
Came back into the role, football operations coordinator, just kind of by happenstance. And haven't really looked back. I've kind of stayed in this role now. I was working a lot with the seconds team. I had a really great manager who has now left the company. So I took over kind of his role, not exactly the same, but took over his role, and then that's still what I'm doing today.
Nice. What do you think, like if you look back at how you've climbed this ladder, how do you think that happened, or what were the things that you were doing that you think they saw in you that thought, obviously Steph can just move into this role?
Yeah. Well, I think going from an intern, you're not, guaranteed a role out of it. So I think from the very beginning as an intern, I was always really keen, showed a lot of, I guess, initiative. And at the Swans in particular as well, no job's kind of bigger than anyone is like something we go by. So I guess, being willing to do the little stuff and with a smile gets you noticed, I guess, for lack of a better word, or just, having a good attitude. And we find being a good person is probably better than being a good worker. Obviously, having both is good. But, if you're a good person to start with, you can be molded into, I guess, whatever. And luckily enough, an opportunity came up and I grabbed it.
Yeah. It's a really good point. Obviously a lot of our listeners are going into internships or looking for internships, and there's always a lot of pressure around them. You sort of have that weight on your shoulders of, I've got to perform really well. I've got to do everything perfectly in order to, hopefully down the line stick around and get a job. But I think what you kind of said there around just be yourself in the first instance and, work really hard, but don't stress that much about trying to be perfect. It's around the person that you are, and that's what's going to get you hired down the line.
Absolutely, yeah. Big believer in just being your authentic self. Ask a lot of questions. I'm a big question asker. So just at the end of the day, knowing that everybody makes mistakes. If you don't know, you don't know. It's better to ask and find out, and be happy, be your authentic self, and things will happen.
Kind of on that same front, if you were to put yourself in your shoes as an intern 6 years ago, what is something you would tell yourself knowing what you know now?
That's a good question. I don't know that I would do anything different or tell them anything different. I would just say, be curious. And at the end of the day, people want to help you. It's not everybody's out for themselves kind of thing. People are more than willing to help if you ask for help and if you are curious and you're excited about things. And if you just go after it, I think, I wouldn't do anything differently, but I would just encourage myself to be excited and, dig in, I guess.
No, good call. Tell us, what are your favourite parts about working in footy ops? I know you listed a few things there, but what are the little bits of gold that you when you wake up in the morning, you look forward to doing?
Might sound cliche, but the biggest thing I love about my role is actually the people that I work with. I've got some really great friends, a really good core group of friends that have all come from the Swans, and getting to see them every day it doesn't actually feel like work. We talk a lot of shit at work. We laugh a lot. Am I allowed to swear? I don't know. We laugh a lot at work, which keeps things light. And I guess, when there's a time to switch on, you do. But I think the people, definitely, as well as the biggest highlight of the job is match day, probably. That's what we all work for. And we're lucky we get to do it every single week. But I guess being a part of the match day and a part of the team is such a cool feeling that I probably take for granted a little bit, but, reminding yourself that this is a really cool job and a lot of people would want to be in my position. But I do really love it and love coming to work every day.
Love that. And speaking of match days and what a day in the life looks like, what does a day look like on a match day versus maybe in the office or just a regular day?
In the lead up to a match, so during the week, it's a lot of organisation in the back end, kind of planning for, especially if it's a travel week. Travel week they all look the same in a way, you finalise your flights, your accom, etc. And then we take off. And then match day, I get to the game usually 3-4 hours before just to make sure everything's organised. I prefer to be there early rather than stressing if I'm late. Players will usually arrive probably about 2 hours, an hour and a half before the game. So when they arrive, I meet with the AFL integrity officer and the matchday manager. We just discuss if anything is different about this match game, timings of run out, team run out, etc. I also submit the team an hour before. So I work closely with the coaches, check off the final team, submit that. And then obviously liaise with the AFL and the opposition if there are any late changes or whatever. And then keep the team to time. So making sure we're running out on time. We're making sure that we're in position on the field, because I don't know if you guys know much, but you get a free kick or a warning if your team's not set up properly. So making sure we break with enough time to get everybody in position. And then obviously on the bench during the game, holding up funky signs. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
There's so many little bits and pieces there. 1 minute you're, organising change rooms and integrity things on one side, and then the other side, you're literally involved in pretty much the coaching of the game by putting up signs.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, but you're involved hands on in the game as well. There's just so many things. How do you might have a method to the madness, but how do you make sure that every single one of those things is ticked off? Is it a physical list or is it an app, or how do you keep track of all this stuff?
I don't have a list, to be honest. I guess I've been doing it for nearly 2 years now, so it kind of is second nature. Yeah, initially coming into the role, I did probably have a mental checklist, making sure everything's ticked off. But I guess, the more experience you get, the more comfortable you feel. Things become kind of second nature. But yeah, initially it is scary especially when my manager left. I kind of just got thrown in. He did a great handover, obviously. But yeah, you kind of learn on the go. And yeah, I think now it's definitely become like second nature.
One question that I feel like a lot of people ask, and I got a similar question when I used to work at Cricket Australia, but people say like, what do you do in the off season? Like, because if the cricket happens in summer, then what are you doing in winter? So for those people out there who are unsure what a footy operations manager does in the off season, what does that look like compared to in season?
Yes, I get this question all the time. It's funny. We do get a bit of an off season, to be fair. We do try and take a bit of time off after the season. But when we come back for pre-season, it's a lot of planning for the next year. I might do a little bit of stuff for the draft each year, but mostly it's making sure we're coming back, communicating with the players' schedules for when they come back, looking forward, looking ahead. We do a lot of kind of workshops around how we get better. We're in the industry where we always want to get better. So a lot of kind of planning work for the pre-season and then the upcoming season. Because obviously as soon as the fixture lands from the AFL, that's kind of when it's go and you can start booking in things and making plans.
And are you like literally booking, like I think people might think it's on the fly, but like at the start of the year, you'd be booking in hotels, flights, like everything for the entire, almost 30-week season that it is now.
Yeah.
Is that literally when that fixture comes out, that's just like go time for you guys?
Pretty much, yeah, because we kind of don't have – our travel schedule kind of stays pretty similar throughout the season. There might be a few games we tweak a bit. But, yeah, essentially we'll have like our favourite hotels, or if we want to try a new hotel, we essentially book that in, as soon as the fixture lands, make sure we get what we need, make sure we get all our exit row seats for our 6-foot-something players. Yeah, so as soon as that kind of lands, we get busy, yeah.
Sounds like you've got a lot of different parts across the whole club. Does that come with many challenges, or has there been a time where there's been a challenge and you've had to overcome that? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, for sure. There's, especially at a football club, we have a lot of kind of competing stakeholders, I guess. So even internally, so you've got the football department, who obviously looks after the team, making sure the product on the field is the best it can be. And you've also got a whole commercial department that work behind the scenes to put on, to get sponsors, keep sponsors, commercial department that runs the match days. There's a whole team, memberships, media. And obviously with each department comes, I guess, differing priorities. So things like player appearances can become a kind of sticking point at times. If, we have a player who has been requested to do an appearance for a sponsor, but the footy schedule doesn't kind of align, I work closely with our high performance manager to kind of find a nice balance, a good day for when they can do this appearance. As you know, we have sponsors who, pay a lot of money for the club. They want a player to do an appearance. But yeah, lots of competing priorities, but at the same time recognizing that it's important that we try and make things happen for our sponsors, for our members. But definitely there are challenges even within the football department, between physios, coaches. Everybody has different ideas, but yeah, we try and find a happy harmony to keep everyone happy.
I'm sure Horse runs a tight ship. Has there ever been a time where there has been a mistake? Like, we're always on this podcast, we talk about some of the amazing things people do, but we're also all human. Has there ever been a time where, you may have stuffed something up, or there's been something happen at the club and you're like, oh dear, I've stuffed up here? Yeah,
for sure. Like, I make mistakes all the time. Happily own them as well. I think that's the first step. Nothing, too catastrophic. But yeah, there's been mistakes. There's been mistakes on days when we probably shouldn't have said yes to an appearance, or I don't know, the bus hasn't arrived when you needed it to, kind of thing. All very solvable mistakes. I think my biggest thing is if mistakes happen, no point complaining about it. What are we going to do to fix it? Solutions based is how I like to work. But yeah, obviously, no one's perfect. We all make mistakes. But I guess nothing too crazy to report.
That's good. It's better than you saying, I've got tons of mistakes to report. So we love to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are heaps of people listening to your role and they're super interested in it. What are some of the skills that you would say are most important in your role if someone was to want to do something similar? Maybe the top 3.
Yeah, I think one of the most important skills, I guess, or personality kind of traits maybe, is being able to work with people, and being like operations especially is really relationship driven. I probably couldn't do my job well if I didn't have the relationships that I do with internal players, coaches, commercial staff, but as well with our external suppliers. Like my biggest thing is to try and form a relationship with everybody. And it doesn't have to be deep all the time, but I find if I get to know someone on a personal level, like I can have a better relationship with them, which then in turn leads to an easier transaction and makes it easier for my job. So definitely, relationships is a huge thing. It builds trust, and then people trust you. So that helps. I think as well, people would laugh when I say this, but organisation, because I think if you know me in my personal life, I'm so disorganised. But as an operations manager, that's probably the second or number one thing that you need to be, is organised, looking ahead. Yeah, it's funny when I tell my friends, they're like, that's not true. But yeah, and the third one is probably being able to adapt and be flexible, especially in a football program. Like, things are constantly changing based on, the weekend's result, like if we've had any injuries come out of it, training might change. We want to fly earlier. We want to leave here. Like, things are always changing. So being able to adapt and, not be so rigid and stuck in your ways is really, really important in this role.
Nice. Do you obviously manage some staff under you as well?
Well, at the moment, I've just, so long story short, I was doing AFL and VFL last year. So VFL is the seconds team, because obviously we have a squad of 44 players. So whoever doesn't play in the seniors plays VFL. So last year I was doing all the logistics and stuff for both teams. So that was huge year. I haven't got someone directly kind of under me. I've got a bit more support around it now, which is good. But yeah, I guess hopefully that's the next kind of goal for me, and step for me is to be able to have a team, I guess. It's funny, in a football club, it's such a unique environment. Like, you have a soft cap. So anybody directly related to the football department, anything that's directly related to it, the medical, the operations of it, as in moving the team, everything is within a cap. And football staff salary also sits in that as well. So yeah, it's a fine balance between trying to find someone, but also we need to fit within a cap because it's the rules. So yeah, it's a really unique situation.
Yeah. We obviously have a lot of people who are in our community who are, networking and learning about what the industry looks like. There's also a lot of listeners out there who are thinking of, trying to switch jobs and get into sport. And this is an area that I reckon is super, super popular. It's like a bit of like the sexy part of sport. Like, you're involved in it, you're in the day-to-day, you're actually involved in the playing of it. Like, let's be honest, like, we'd all love to play, but we can't all play, so we do the next best thing. But, obviously people want to get to where you are, and they're thinking, well, okay, how do I get some of that experience to get to that role and get some experience in, operations or whatnot? So do you have like maybe one or two, things that you do or that you'd recommend people do to try and get some of the experience that will get them to where you are?
Yeah, for sure. I think if internships are available to them, I think that's a really great start. But also, like, I know a lot of clubs, especially football clubs, really thrive on volunteers, especially in the Melbourne market. Obviously, Melbourne is a crazy AFL-centric state. And like I was talking about before, the soft cap, we can't pay everyone because we're on a tight cap. But, you know, if you were available to volunteer, get your foot in the door, help out, I think that would go a really long way. And yeah, if there's, just ask questions, you know, reach out. Like I was saying before, I think most people would be happy to answer and happy to help people, guide them in the right direction. So yeah, I'd say reach out to someone if you're interested in a certain space, if it's media, if it's membership, football even. Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to ask questions or reach out. Like the worst thing someone is going to say is, no, sorry, I can't help you or whatever. But I think more times than not, people would be more than willing to sit down or get a coffee or, yeah, help out. Networking is a huge one as well. In the sporting industry, it seems huge, but it's such a small industry. Like once you're kind of in the sporting industry, you're kind of in, and there's a lot of transferable skills between sports, clubs, leagues. Like, for example, myself, like I worked in events. I didn't have any really skills in football, but like I was saying before, if you kind of are working hard, you kind of can transition that way. People, especially the Swans, they're after good people. So if you're a good person and you possess the skills, it's very transferable. And I know that it would be the same at a lot of clubs and throughout the industry.
Definitely. Speaking about networking, we are extremely lucky and pumped to have you on our meetup panel on Thursday. Do you have any advice for somebody going to a networking event, or, you know, can you think of a time when networking's played a role in your career?
Any advice would be to just come along, first and foremost. I know it can be scary, but it's a really important part of work and life in general, creating a big network and just being vulnerable and open. And with it, like, yeah, there's always a risk. You might think you sound stupid, but you probably won't. Like, I ask stupid questions all the time, but that's how you find out answers. And I guess, yeah, just be vulnerable and open, I would suggest.
Love that. And just to sum up this whole episode, how would you describe your role as a football operations manager in 3 words?
That's tough.
That's hard, yeah.
It's a bit off script, but I feel like you'll nail it.
3 words.
There's no rules, literally no rules. Or a sentence.
Cash's rules here. I don't think I couldn't do that either, to be honest, Cash. What would yours be? Massive content queen.
Thank you.
That works. How about Steph? We'll save the 3 words for your role for the meetup panel on Thursday. So those tuning in, if you're in Sydney, we're leaving you on a cliffhanger. You can hear what Steph has to say for her 3 words at the meetup, which will be just as good, if not better. So hopefully that's okay. A bit of homework between now and then.
Yeah. No, that's good. Good plan.
All righty. Well, Steph, thank you so much for coming on the show. We know you're over in God's country, which is Perth. For those tuning in, of course, you'd know what God's country is. But thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you'd have the schedule in your mind ready to go for the next couple of days. And good luck against Freo. But yeah, just thanks a lot for giving your time today, and I'm sure people got a lot out of it. So all the best.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Looking forward to the meetup on Thursday as well.
Thanks, Steph.
Hey friends, one last thing before you go. If you really want to make an impact in sport, then subscribe to the SportsGrad newsletter. Inside, we share all the latest job openings and networking events, so you're always aware of opportunities to land a job and grow your network. Plus, we share a Q&A with a professional on how they grow their career in sport. Here we talk about things like how they moved overseas or negotiated their salary or landed a new job or promotion, made a career change, and so much more. It's kind of like a little boost of inspiration in your inbox before the weekend. So if you're like us, you're career driven and you're keen to progress quickly, you're going to love the SportsGrad newsletter. To get it, head to sportsgrad.com.au/newsletter to subscribe, or follow the link in the show notes. See you next time.